First of all, they're challenged by the number of things that they have to do.
Are hugely involved in softball and hockey and cheer and all these other commitments.
The younger generations now are sort of saying, that's my mom and dad's institution. It may not be my inheritance.
Faith just does not seem relevant to most of them. It doesn't seem to connect with what they think is important.
And church is just not a priority, nor is it a place where these students are feeling affirmed.
We should be spending a lot more time finding out where they are, where they want to be, what are they doing, what's their vision of what unity, reconciliation, and justice are.
Talking about the issues that they encounter, getting into really deep discussions about how the gospel impacts the decisions that they make. When I was in college, I had a fairly direct encounter with God, but I also had a group of Christian people who obviously really took their faith seriously. They were the first people I really knew who said that they were Christians and meant something by that made them different from everyone else.
One of my professors at the college was my advisor, really mentored me this year and helped me grow spiritually. So
I had a Sunday school teacher who was very youth-minded, youth-oriented. I admired him. I stayed connected with him.
Well, I had this big advantage that I had a dad who was a pastor.
The models for me were a couple of old farmers that lived down the road that used to take me along to church league basketball. We didn't talk that much, but I was a young adolescent, had not much to do, and it was cool to go to the church league basketball, and they stopped and they picked me up and they took me along.
My relationship with my pastor was a personal relationship. He spent a lot of his time with us as a group and with me as an individual.
That was very instrumental in my own growth and development. Because they were there and they were with and they walked alongside and they accepted me as I was.
I think we get them involved. I think we get them involved with the processes of the church.
I think there should be something for the youth. Like once you graduate high school until about you get married, there's not a lot for the church that you can do. There's not a lot to get involved.
I think just involvement. I think the hurdle is that they need to trust kids to care, and they need to trust kids to want to be involved, and they need to see that kids and young adults and young people aren't just there for the fun. They want to have involvement. They want to make decisions.
Having youth at the table for everything, from the way we govern ourselves to the way that we plan. So much of the planning and the organization all happens without youth involvement, without youth input.
I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that we do ministry to and for youth, not youth doing ministry with us in our life together.
The biggest thing, if I could wave a magic wand, would be to have ordinary adults connect, care about, link up with young people in the church, in the youth groups.
This generation is really concerned with improving the world, and that's part of the gospel. So if we can hook into kids' desire to do that, I think it'll do a lot in terms of keeping kids connected to faith and to the church.
If there's a way of bridging the ideas of being reformed and missional to being boomer and millennial, that may be we may find some pathways that are in that are not on our tables right now.
Well, I think it shapes it from the bottom up, because being reformed gives to us a mental model of how the world works, which shapes the way that we do youth ministry with an understanding of our call and God's sovereignty and how He has gifted and called kids, and then the way that we disciple them.
I think because being reformed, at whatever stage as a youth, one comes to understand that you've been sealed by the Holy Spirit and marked as God's own forever. Whether that has happened at birth in an infant baptism or a teenage profession of faith and baptism, then whatever that means, from that point on, youth ministry, as far as all discipleship, as far as I'm concerned, is about the process of coming to understand and live into our baptismal identity.
I tell my students from Reformed background that you have a special connection with youth because of the promises that were taken in baptism. At baptism, the parents and the congregation have all promised that they will be there to help raise this child in the faith. Now, my experience has been that churches in general, and I'm generalizing here, in general, do a pretty good job with little kids. Then kids hit the junior high years and they get a little scary, and in the high school years they get some tattoos and some piercings, and then churches call me as the person who teaches youth ministry at Northwestern College and say, hey, do you have some college kid that can come work with our youth? And sometimes there are not enough college kids to go around.